The views and opinions of this broadcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Armed Media, New Productions and its affiliates. Enjoy the show.
Hey guys, welcome. This is Arthur Glusman with the Art of Career Growth Facebook Live and podcast on Armed Radio. You can check us out and tune in at tunein.com, Armed Radio, and go to the show, The Art of Career Growth. Today I have a great friend, special guest, Jerry Venditelli, former global director for a $3.5 billion company. And today we're going to be talking about 10 things that hiring managers and recruiters look for in an interview. And Jerry, feel free to share a little bit of your background, how long you were in recruiting and HR, and then we'll jump into the first question.
Okay. Yeah, well, I was with at an ad agency for many, many years, then got into recruiting at a company and was there almost 13 years. Left as director of global recruiting. And now I own a consulting company that deals with companies, that helps them train the recruiters, helps them hire candidates, but mostly it's about training the recruiters and working with recruiters how to deal with candidates on a daily.
So, in the course of an interview, let's start off with, the very basic 5-10 items. The minute a candidate shows up, what's a hiring manager or recruiter looking for?
Well, there's going to be a couple of steps. One of the first things is most companies will do a phone interview.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
So the first thing you can expect is setting that up. Make sure that very basic things. Make sure that you answer your phone when they call, because they will not call back. Make sure you are in a quiet place when you're talking to them, and make sure that you treat it just like a face-to-face interview. Just because you're sitting at your desk at home at your kitchen table, don't be slipping on a cup of coffee. Don't get up and walk away while they're talking to you so that your voice travels. Treat it like you were there on a face-to-face. Do well on that, you're going to get to the face-to-face. Again, very basics. I know everybody's going to say, well, I know that. But it's present yourself properly. Make sure that you dress properly for an interview. Even if you're going in for a line worker's job, don't show up like you're going to be working on the line. Show up like how you want them to see you. Make sure that when the recruiter walks in, the hiring manager walks into the room, you stand up and greet them. There's a table, walk around it. Don't make them reach the table to shake you. Back it up a little bit. Get to the interview about 15 minutes early. Don't show up right on time, because sometimes recruiters want to get started a little bit early. They may keep waiting. That's their prerogative. It's not great, but try to show up at least 15 minutes early for an interview. And basic respect. Keep your phone in your car. Don't bring it in. Don't keep looking at your phone while you're interviewing. Don't be looking at your phone when the hiring manager or the recruiter walks into the room, and then all of a sudden put it away or tuck it back into your pocket. Don't sit back in the chair that you're in. Little basic things, common courtesy, business etiquette is probably the best thing I can tell you, no matter what you're going into interview. You're on display. They're going to talk to you. They're going to look at your body language. They're going to listen to your tone of voice. They're going to listen to your inclinations to see if you're hesitating answering a question. Good recruiter will engage you in conversation. Make sure you keep that conversation on things you feel comfortable talking about. They're going to try to steer you into directions about, how many hours do you like to work? Sneak off and go play golf. They're going to want to talk to you about hobbies and things like that.
Yes.
Those are all trick questions.
And we'll get into that a little bit too. Let's start off with kind of point number one. You know, whether it's an HR person or a recruiting professional, they're looking for you, the job seeker, the candidate that's interviewing, someone who is able to connect the dots. What does that mean?
That means, did you do your homework before you walked in the door? Know everything you can about the company that you're interviewing for, even if it's for GM, IBM. Yes, all very well-known companies that make cars, that make computers. But you should research a company. Try to research the position at that company that you're interviewing for before you go in. But even more important, read about the company. Research them. Find out if they've won any awards recently. Have they made any procurements? If they had any growth? If they had any slowdowns? So that you can talk to the recruiter, the hiring manager, intelligently. Hey, I understand you won a national award for this. Hey, I understand you guys have had a couple of cutbacks. There's nothing wrong with saying that. I understand that you've had some slowdowns. Can you tell me why that happens? It shows your concern. It shows interest in the company. Hey, I understand you just got a new CEO.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about that? So make sure, the most important thing is make sure that you walk into the know about that company. Don't walk in, the hiring manager looks at you and says, you know about us? No, I didn't really get a chance to research you. That's the kissy.
Yeah, and let me just say this, because I worked with Jerry when he was at the $3.5 billion company and actually placed a lot of people and things of that nature. And Jerry will be the first one to tell you how many professionals, not specifically the ones that came through my door, but just in general, don't do their homework. It's amazing how many job seekers, they think they're prepared, they think they've done their homework, but more often than not, the majority of them, right, they bomb at the interviews.
Yeah, they have no idea what they're walking into. They have no idea about the position. They know it's an accounting position, but they have no idea what that company's involved in. Is it a commodities company? Is it a retail company? What's their growth pattern? Are they a $5 billion company? Are they a $3 billion company? Little silly things like that, but you need to know what you're walking into.
Here Okay. Hold on, guys.
I'm not going to be able to get us both there.
No, we haven't. All right, hopefully this is better. Thank you. All right, so that's kind of number one. Number two, or point number two, is you want to make sure that you're someone who has thought about the employer's needs. Once again, a lot of job seekers are approaching this from the perspective of, okay, I've got an interview, I need a job, right? And right. What is this employer willing to offer me? And as much as that's important, it's also about what you, the job seeker, are going to offer the company. So what would you say about that, Jerry?
Well, it's more than what's on your resume.
Right.
They're going to look at you. They've already read your resume. You're there because they liked your resume. You made it through the phone screen. Now they're interviewing you. It's no longer about you had X job, Y job, Z job. It's about your personality and how you're going to fit with their culture. And they want to know that you're passionate about what you're doing and that they're not going to be looking to fill this position and hire you 6 months down the road because they made a mistake. Recruiters don't like to make mistakes in hiring. Hiring managers don't like to do that. It costs company money.
Right.
So they're going to want to know that they're hiring somebody that's got the skill set they need, but up and above the skill set, is there a culture fit? Are you going to be able to get along with other people in your department? Even if it's a one-person department, are you going to deal with people in other departments? There's going to be a lot of interaction. That's what they're going to want to know that you can do.
Perfect. What about someone who has ideas in terms of how they will approach the position?
Recruiter or hiring manager will ask you how you will deal with different situations. Every company is different. What I can tell you is just be honest with them. What you don't want to do is badmouth the company that you were at before and saying, well, I tried to fix this situation, but they wouldn't listen to me. I was trying to argue with my boss, or they should have done it this way, because don't come across like you're always right and it's always somebody else's. Worst thing you can do in an interview is blame somebody else for something that went wrong in a position. Oh, I did everything right. Bob in that department didn't listen to me. Don't come across as the absolute know-it-all expert. Be flexible. Companies run a little bit different. They want your expertise. They do want ideas. They want innovative ideas. They do want you to come into the department, give them growth and keep them going. But they don't want to know that they're dealing with somebody that's going to dig their boots in, and this is the absolute only way I'm going to do it.
Right.
That doesn't work.
Right. You can't be stubborn.
Situation.
You can't be stubborn.
Right. And a know-it-all.
Yeah. Got to be flexible. And, yeah, I just had somebody that bombed an interview the other day because he just thought he was, God's gift to, the manufacturing and being a director, and that didn't go very well. What about, when you're in an interview and you're getting asked the accomplishment question, or a question that's talking about challenges or difficult situations that you were in, what's a hiring manager or a recruiter looking for precisely in the response to that question?
They're looking for problem and how you solved it, or how you were part of a team that solved it. They're not looking for I. I did this, I did that, I gave the suggestion, my suggestion. It's going to be all about you. That's not a team player. Most companies look for team players. So what you need to do is very categorically walk them through a process on how it got solved. My team came up with a solution, or our team came up with a solution, and we did this, this, and this. Give them the steps.
Right.
And actually walk into an interview knowing they're going to ask you those questions. Know that they're going to ask you for difficult situations you've had. How have you handled a difficult hiring manager? How did you handle a difficult boss? How did you handle a typical situation? How did you handle whatever? Going into an interview, know they're going to ask you that. Practice. Right. Practice. Think about it. Don't make it up. Walk through methodical steps on how you solve something.
Right.
And write those down. First of all, on the basics, going back a little bit, bring a notepad with you.
Yes.
Don't walk into an interview with your hands in your pocket, and don't have, make sure you have a pad and a pen. Take notes. Don't stare down and write everything down the person's saying, but take notes, because most of the time you're going to meet with a recruiter first. Try to get as much about the company that you didn't already research out of the recruiter as possible, so that you can look more intelligent about it and know some inside information before the hiring manager walks into the room. So you should be asking the recruiter questions when there's an opening. Don't bombard them with questions. Wait for the opportunity so that they can speak to you and get what they need first, but then feel very comfortable in asking a recruiter different questions. There is nothing wrong with asking a recruiter about the culture, about the department that you're interviewing for, the company in general. I notice you've had some turnover in this position. I've seen it listed quite a few times. Why is that? Can you just tell me why? Is there something in particular about this position? Have people been promoted? Have they been? Those are not bad questions asked. That shows you've done a little bit of homework and you're concerned about going into a company that's a good fit for you.
Right. Let me just back up for a minute, too. One of the things that we do with our clients when we are coaching them specifically for the interview, as with regards to the challenge or difficulty question, is there's a little formula. It's called STAR, S-T-A-R, which stands for situation, task, action, and result. And if you're a good coach, by looking at the resume and dissecting that individual's experience, I can already prepare to a very high degree what some of the questions most likely you're going to be asked in the interview. And if you think of STAR formula, which again stands for situation, task, action, and result, you can formulate the question or the responses to those questions with those 4 key points, and it's just going to come out, much more fluid in the interview process. Number 5, we kind of mentioned this. Obviously you need to be prompt and well prepared for a job interview. Is there anything else you'd like to maybe touch upon regarding that point, being prompt?
Well, again, being prompt, 15 minutes is good to be ahead of time. Don't show up a half hour, an hour, hoping they're going to get you in to get out of there. Prompt. Don't pace around. That's another thing. When you're in a lobby of a building, if you're interviewing with somebody, don't pace around. Kind of go off to the side, sit in a chair, wait for the person, because they probably have traffic coming through their lobby. The receptionist is trying to do her job. Hopefully you left your phone in the car. Don't answer your phone even in the lobby. You're not in the interview yet, if you have your phone with you, unless it's an emergency, turn it off. Don't answer it. Don't text. Don't go on Facebook. Go through your notes. You should have your notebook open and go through the questions that you're going to have for that recruiter and look at the research you've done on that company. Hopefully you printed off a page or 2 on the company so that you can refer to it.
Perfect. Point number 6, in the interview, a lot of times job seeker can explain, or oftentimes they're not even explaining precisely the roles that they have been and what they have done, but more so where they've been and where they're going. Would you agree, Jerry, that would be, someone that is able to verbally express the experience that they have, how they're going to capitalize on that experience, and how this experience is going to, translate and bring it over to this new role in the company?
Well, you should be able to do that. You should be able to have already thought that through in your head. How's your experience played into helping the company that you're walking into? Whether you're an accountant or an engineer. Understand one thing about recruiters. They can't be experts in every single position that they're recruiting for. Some recruiters can't add 3 numbers, so they're not going to be good to ask you technical accounting questions. They're certainly not engineers, so they're not going to be able to get into a lot of technical questions. Recruiters are going to be interviewing you for a culture fit. A hiring manager for that department or position, they're going to come in and ask you the technical questions. That's where you need to be on your game with what you know about. If you're an engineer, if you're an electrical engineer, they're going to throw electrical engineering questions at you. You better be prepared to answer them. You don't need to know their systems inside and out. There's nothing wrong with saying, wow, I've never worked on that type of machine before, but does it have this voltage and that? These guys, most hiring managers like to engage in conversation. They're pretty proud of what they do. They all think they're experts in what they do. They're going to want to engage you in your expertise. That's where you need to be on your game with the skill sets. Not so much with the recruiter. The recruiter's going to ask you canned questions. With the hiring manager walking in, accounting, engineering, finance, IT, they're going to want to know your technical background. They're not going to really go into the culture fit. They may tell you about their department, people in there, and how you're going to fit in. But it's really that's where you need to be in your technical game. And you should have prepared for that.
Right. And let me just say this, part of the research that I coach all of my clients on is it's not only about, doing the homework on the company, but you can also find out a lot of information just by looking at profiles of people that are either currently working at those companies, making connections and finding out valuable information, or individuals that have previously worked at that company. So information is available, and how you go about gathering that information, in my opinion, really sets you up to differentiate yourself in the interview. Most people, job seekers, they don't go those extra miles. They don't make those extra steps. And really easy stuff. It doesn't take that long. But believe me, that information is going to be very valuable. And the hiring manager and the recruiters, they're going to be able to tell right away that you've done some serious research, that 90% of all the other individuals that are coming in to interview have not.
90% of the people that come in to interview don't do their homework. If you do that, you're already going to be a step. A significant step.
Right.
I've had VPs come in who didn't do their homework on the company, had no idea how big we were, how many locations we had, that we were global. Not a clue. So that little thing right there will set you aside.
Right. I mean, you're already striking out.
Yeah, you're
already striking out.
And a little tip too. Most recruiters, Arthur used to do this all the time. Who are they going to be interviewing with? I used to tell my team, don't tell them. I'll tell you why. We had a little experience. We actually had a gentleman that was coming in for an interview who did some research on the hiring managers when I first started there. Did a research on a couple of hiring managers because he knew he was going to be talking to them. Got very personal with them in the interview, and they felt uncomfortable. I understand you like to golf. They went to their Facebook page. They Googled them. Hiring managers don't want you to research them. They want you to research the company. So don't walk in and say, hey, wow, I went on your Facebook page and I saw you're a golfer and you have 3 kids and wow, you live in Sterling Heights. And that's scary. That's not good information. So when we say research, it's research on the company.
What are your thoughts on researching that hiring manager, assuming you know that you're going to be interviewing with them, but on LinkedIn?
You could look at that. You want to talk to them about your education, that's fine.
Right.
But then maybe you've got something in common. Hey, we both went to November, or we went to Lawrence Tech, or we went to Ohio, whatever it is. That's okay, but don't get personal with the hiring managers or the recruiters just because you have their name.
What are your thoughts on item number 8 here?
No, these are your items.
Right.
I have no idea.
Right. Well, I'm going to be talking about it. Number 8 is asking, we touched a little bit upon this, but again, I don't think job seekers go deep enough in asking not so much thoughtful, but insightful questions.
Oh, absolutely. Again, like I said earlier, there's nothing wrong with having a list of questions that you want to ask. In fact, I encourage it. Because one of the worst things you can do in interviews at the end, go, do you have any questions for me? No.
Right.
Really, we just sat here for an hour and talked, and I asked you, you have no questions about the company? I don't care how good the research is. Ask again about the culture. Ask about the people in the department, how long they've been there. Ask what the tenure of the boss is. Has my boss been there for 6 months? My boss been there for 18 years. Ask the recruiter personally, what do you think of the company? There's nothing wrong with saying that. How long have you been here? Ask the recruiter about that. Oh, I've been here 5 years. Really? You've been here 5 years, same position? Interview the recruiter a little bit. The hiring manager, you'll get a vibe right away. Whether you feel comfortable interviewing them. How long have you been here? I've been here 23 years. Really? What do you think is the best thing about this company? What do you think are some of the weaknesses about this company? How many people in the department? What kind of turnover do you have? Absolutely ask questions. Ask what you want to know about the company. It's as important for you to know about that company and know that it's a good fit for you as you're a fit for them.
Right.
I used to always tell people that, I'm sorry when we didn't hire you because they always call up or, when we were good about following up. We didn't hire you. Really? I didn't think our culture was a good fit for you. You were great for us. I don't think we were good for you. And that's a big deal. You don't want to bring something, so you've got to look at both ends of it.
Right. And, so that's very important with regards to asking the right questions. And we have to take a little pause because I have to finish off on my podcast here. We're still going to be live. But if anyone has any questions, and we actually have a question from somebody here, Jacob Levy will respond to that in a minute. But if anyone has any questions, again, this is Arthur Glusman, Global Career Advisors. Check us out online at globalcareeradvisors.com. Give us a call. Again, we specialize in elevating professionals personally, financially, and professionally. And we're going to continue on here on Facebook Live probably for another 10-15 minutes. And we have a question. I want to answer this question from Jacob Levy. What would you suggest if I want to work at my dream company, specifically if a desired position is not necessarily posted? And let me respond to that, and then I'll let Jerry add